Following intriguing careers for both Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy Jr., it continues to be interesting to follow former Iowa wide receivers when they transfer out and go to other programs. Of course, we all know the receiver position at Iowa has been a struggle, like pulling teeth, like nails on a chalkboard. And of course, no surprise, Kelton Copeland is not coming back in 2024. Kirk Ferentz announced that officially here about a week and a half ago. So what will that mean for Deontay Vines? He entered the transfer portal during this past open window, which is now closed, and he has officially selected his new school. He is enrolled at this new school. We'll talk about the update in just a second. But first, I really want to put a plug in for this, folks. Please, if you're not following this show on Facebook, do that. As you can see on the screen, that's the Twitter handle and the Instagram handle. It's @FromTheHawkeye, but really trying to get this Facebook page built up. So much room for improvement. We have thousands of people watching this channel each and every day. Please take a moment to go over to Facebook and check out the Facebook page and just hit the like. Follow the Facebook page. Search From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. You can also find the link to our Facebook page in the description below this video. Help us build our presence on social media. That's From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. Even if you don't use Facebook, it does help, folks. Thank you in advance. So the news, Iowa, or former Iowa wide receiver Deontay Vines has transferred to Old Dominion. And when I first got wind of this, I was a little bit surprised. He had reported at least one other Power 5 offer via the transfer portal from, I believe, Pittsburgh, and took a visit to UConn as well, probably regarded as a better program than ODU. Now, keep in mind, Old Dominion was a really good FCS school prior to their move to the FBS in 2012. That's part of the reason they got into the Conference USA at the time. I believe in 2022, and doing some research before the recording of this video, they moved over to the Sun Belt Conference where they currently compete. They were a bowl team this past year. So let's not act like Old Dominion is just yesterday's scraps or yesterday's leftovers. It's a good football program, albeit at a group of 5 level. Now, some of the response that I've gotten back from some people after tweeting this update out to people yesterday that he has officially joined the Old Dominion football program is, how in the world was this guy starting at Iowa? Well, let's hold our horses just for a second. First of all, we don't know the circumstances as to why he picked Old Dominion. Now, for those of you that think, well, maybe he wanted to be closer to home, he is going to be closer to home than he would have been had he stayed in Iowa City. And I did the math on this. Iowa City to his hometown of Danbury, Connecticut, is about a 16-hour drive. Now, Danbury to Norfolk, Virginia, the location of Old Dominion, is still over 7 hours long. So, driving distance, yeah, sure, probably. A little bit more doable, I guess, for family members if they're trying to come out and watch Diante on the weekends. You make a weekend trip, 7 hours there, 7 hours back. That's not like across town or anything like that. It's certainly more doable than 16 hours, probably require a flight more often than not. So maybe that's a factor. Keep in mind, Deontay did not light the world on fire at Iowa, and we recognize the fact that most receivers don't light the world on fire at Iowa. Charlie Jones didn't light the world on fire at Iowa, not on offense, and certainly Tyrone Tracy struggled his senior year. Purdue moved him to running back, and he excelled. But Deontay Vines had 22 catches for 228 yards and a touchdown during his career at Iowa. As I mentioned at the outset, he struggled with injuries, had a wrist injury that really bugged him at the beginning of the 2022 season, was out for some time during 2023. And during that period, it seemed like Caleb Brown, Ohio State transfer, Caleb Brown seemed to kind of take over his spot. So I'm not surprised at all that Deontay Vines left Iowa. I'd also been told the year prior that Deontay Vines was seriously considering transferring out in 2022 after the 2022 season, and he opted to stay. One of the big storylines that filtered its way through Hawkeye Nation during not this offseason, but the previous offseason was the big trip out to California for Cade McNamara and all these new receivers. And the one elephant in the room, so to speak, was the fact that Deontay Vines was not a part of that trip. Now, I asked Deontay about his decision. Back at Media Day in August, I asked Deontay Vines about his decision not to join those guys in California for that bonding session or whatever you want to call it. And Deontay's response to me was, quite frankly, hey, I wanted to go home and see my mom, and I don't get to see her very much. I see these guys all the time. I get that. But I had said when he entered the portal, I would not be surprised if part of his decision making would involve being closer to home. I'm a little bit surprised that he picked a place over 7 hours away from his hometown, but what do I know? Now, I will say this: Old Dominion, middling offense. If you look at their offensive stats in comparison to the rest of the FBS, they're in the 90s with pass offense, total offense. So better than Iowa relative to yardage, etc. Different level. I get that. Totally different level to Sun Belt. And they did lose their bowl game. They finished the year 6-7. They lost their bowl game. It was the famous Toastery Bowl, I think. Is that what it is? The famous Toastery Bowl? That's what I'm seeing on my screen, folks. They lost to Western Kentucky. And if I recall, I picked Old Dominion in my bowl picks, and they were up like 21, blew the lead. So maybe that's why Diante was recruited there, because somebody needs to help Old Dominion hang on to a 3-score lead. Anyways, I digress. Congratulations to Deontay Vines. He moves on. It will be interesting to see because he still is at an FBS program. So although you could say this is a lower tier FBS program, if he goes there and is clearly one of the best receivers in the Sun Belt, then I will still probably admit that Iowa severely underutilized him. I think it's hard to argue that Iowa doesn't severely utilize almost every receiver that they brought in, because the development has not been there. The play calling has not been there. I don't know how well coached these receivers, these wideouts, have been. Of course, we'll see who Iowa hires as the next wide receivers coach. Will they do any work in the portal? They don't have scholarships available right now. And even with Deontay Vines' departure, they don't have scholarships available right now. But we'll see. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining at ODU. And by all accounts, Deontay was a respectful young man and very kind to the media. I had 1 or 2 interactions with him, and he was very gracious, very polite. So we'll see. Maybe Old Dominion looks at him as like their guy moving forward at receiver. And if he's not their guy, then that tells me maybe he didn't belong in the Big Ten if he's not even going to be the top guy at a Sun Belt Conference program. But maybe that's a narrow way of looking at it. But that's kind of my 2 cents on the situation. So again, Deontay Vines to Old Dominion. I confirmed this through an ODU spokesperson, and he is listed now on the official 2024 football roster for Old Dominion. So congratulations to Diante, and more work to do for Iowa's wideouts. We still don't have an answer on OC. I have people reaching out to me left and right. What do you think about this guy? What do you think about this guy? I have tried to limit speculation. There's so much of that out there, but I do think we're going to get official news from Iowa within the next week. We'll see if I'm right on that. So stay tuned. When we do, we'll have a live show, Hawkeye Hangout shows, and podcasts coming up. Lots of stuff still going. And then on Saturday, we'll have more basketball postgame coverage, men's and women's coverage right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Again, please like the video. Be sure to follow us on Facebook. We'll talk to you next time.